National Whistleblower Day is on July 30th. Why? Why is it on July 30th?
Well, it's interesting. My law partner did some research on this and included a chapter in his book about it. And what he discovered was that in 1778, the Continental Congress had actually passed a law on July 30th, 1778, which was the first whistleblower law in America. It was the Continental Congress was before the colonies had actually prevailed over England, but it kind of tells you how different things were viewed then and how remarkable the Continental Congress was and how advanced in their thinking they were when a group of sailors actually blew the whistle on an admiral in the Continental Navy. And what was their concern? Their concern was about the mistreatment and torture of English prisoners in wartime.
Yeah.
And also, concerns about the admiral profiting off of, what were scarce resources for the war effort at that time. And they went to extraordinary efforts to send sailors off of this ship and send a delegation to report this wrongdoing by the commander to the Continental Congress. And as a result, they were charged with criminal libel. And our Continental Congress, instead of covering it up or letting them fend for themselves, actually took a very bold step and passed a formal resolution and actually used money from the treasury of the Continental Congress, which was very scarce at that time in wartime against England, and they actually raised money to pay for these sailors' defense.
Interesting. Yeah. Let's bring it to present day, David, because obviously the elephant in the room when you're talking about whistleblowers these days is a name everyone knows, Edward Snowden.
Right.
And I personally, by the way, I have a theory that for all the talk about, for those who don't view him as a whistleblower, but view him as a traitor and so forth, they want to get him back. The Obama administration and others talk about getting him back here so they can prosecute him and so forth. My theory is they don't really want that because if you look at polls, you might see a poll where half of Americans polled think he's a hero, the other half thinks he's a traitor. So it creates an incredible political problem if they do get him back, which I don't think he's ever returning to the U.S. anyway. He'd be a fool to, I think. But if he were to come back, then what do? Do you execute him for treason? Well, that's going to upset at least half of the people who have an opinion on this. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on Edward Snowden in terms of that political problem and anything else that you would like to say about that.
Well, I think it's an age-old political problem in the United States when you use laws like the Espionage Act against whistleblowers. And it really goes back to our dark recesses of the Cold War and anti-communist period when when you're calling people who want to do the right thing spies.
Right.
And so you're absolutely right. If Ed Snowden were to return to the United States, he would be branded a spy, would be charged with violations of the Espionage Act, and he would have to, if he came back to the United States, those who have even been, raising the prospect in our government of, some sort of deal that would be a plea bargain, he would have to serve time in prison. So that's the choice, and that's the treatment of people that fall outside the system of legal protections, which, tells you a lot about how authoritarian our system has become. And why a person like Ed Snowden to blow the whistle on something like what the law breaking by the National Security Agency and our intelligence community, how you could not legally blow the whistle in the United States. And I think that's a sad commentary about the state of our laws protecting people who work in the intelligence community and for our government. and it is at odds with our history and all of the principles and all of the nice things that we say about wanting to protect people and give them the voice to report illegal activity.
Right.
So those are my initial thoughts on Ed Snowden. And it's unfortunate that, you know, I think it's a result of a broken system that doesn't fulfill the promise of being allowing people who work for intelligence agencies to report wrongdoing and criminal conduct to the appropriate authorities, to Congress, etc., and ultimately let the American people know that these laws are being broken by our government agencies.